There's a question here from Talaman GEA. Now, you were front and centre on the TV coverage last week, John. I don't know if you know about this, but how did you get on the terrace last week?
It was a fantastic view of the game. And just watching especially in the first half, Shane, or especially before the game. I watched the Waterford warm-up, Shane, and I said, Jesus, they'll be finished before the game ever starts. And they were running and sprinting and ball work at 300 miles an hour. And I said, they won't start. They were completely flat when they started. And you also get a fantastic view of, puck outs and, the Waterford wing back was on one side of the field, things like that you wouldn't see from the middle of the pitch. And but the Waterford warm-up, Shane, before the game ever started was crazy, I think. You know what I mean? Absolutely crazy.
Were you always conscious of that as a manager, John? Like, I don't know. I think you do your activation work and you do your bits and pieces, you get out on the pitch. I don't know. 15 or 20 minutes to me on a sweltering hot day is enough. What do you think?
Yeah, like you really have to judge that. And I watched that the minute the Camogie match was over on Sunday, Waterford were out on the field pucking around at 2:30. And most guys come now to matches, they're already probably had a rub in the hotel. They've already been strapped up. And then when you go back into the dressing room at 3:00, like, what do you do? So, and I've asked my own young fella, like in the Premier League, when they had to be there an hour and a half before a game. So how do you fill your time? And he often said he brought a book with him to read it inside in the dressing room, just to stay calm. And I always said it to him. I said, you need to play the match at 4:00, not at 2:00 or 2:30. And I thought Waterford were actually burned out before they ever started for that reason. And, you kind of have to manage the time. And just to get the warm-up right, you don't overexert. You don't overexert before the game. You just got to get right. And then when the throw-in comes at 4:00, then you have to play.
Is that something you learned from experience, John, in terms of like the warm-up and getting it wrong at certain points and then adjusting?
Yeah. You go back and you look at matches and say, what did we do wrong or what did we do right? And you know what I mean, that we overdone the talking before in the hotel. We overdid this, and guys are coming at 3:00 into a dressing room set up. And what do? They're ready to go. So you have to kind of manage that and just tone it down until 4:00. And there's very little to be said. There's very little to be said nowadays compared to my time, where you probably just met up in the hotel, had a cup of tea and a sandwich, and then just went to the match. Whereas nowadays that fellas are meeting in the Rochestown Park Hotel at 1:00, and you have your whatever you're having there, your chicken salad, whatever. And, you get the bus down, the guard and police escort down. And, there's very little talking to be done. You should do your talking, in the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before the game. And that's really it,
John, the two teams that were beaten last weekend, Limerick and Waterford, what do you think their prospects are for the rest of the year? Like, is the bulletproof aura gone from Limerick, and what can Davy Fitz do to turn around Waterford? I mean, obviously you weren't impressed with the warm-up and the performance was poor.
I wasn't impressed. No, I thought it was crazy. I wasn't impressed with it. You have one of the best hurlers, if not two best hurlers in Waterford. You've Austin Gleeson and you've Jamie Byrne. And Gleeson only came on as a sub last Sunday. Whether he's injured or not, Austin is one of the best players in hurling at the moment. And you have the bench. I felt really sorry for Tyg de Burka going off, injured in the first game. So he's a massive loss. But Waterford have really, really top-class hurlers. Ballygunner have been doing really, really well in the club championship in the last few years. So there's something wrong somewhere there, I feel, that they're not getting the best out of those players. The Bennetts are top-class. Austin is super. Jamie Byrne is super player. They have super players. Prunty at the back as well. There's something wrong somewhere. And
just on your point there, John, when you look at the personnel that Waterford have, you're kind of wondering what's wrong here. Because when you list them out on paper there, throw Caleb Lyons in, throw Jack Fagan in, throw Deise Hutchinson in, Jack Prendergast in, Mikey Kiley. Like, to me, the personnel is there, but they obviously performed to some extent against Limerick, but it was a no-show last day.
Yeah, but everyone wants to crack off Limerick. You know what I mean? It's easy. It's easy. Say we're playing the All Ireland champions, going for 4 in a row. We want to get the finger out, and we're going to have a cut. You have to perform in all the matches. There's 4 matches you have to play. And as I said to you earlier, it's how well you play when you're playing badly. It's not how well you play when you're playing well. It's how well you play when you're playing badly. And Waterford have potentially a really, really good players. And I just, I think, I don't like saying I think their season is over, but they're on 0 points out of 4. They're on -9. That's not equivalent of another point.
Minus 11, I think.
Is it -11?
Yeah.
I can't see them, Michael, making up that gap then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they will need, they'll need an awful lot of luck in other fixtures. So they're depending on, Waterford will be depending on other fixtures to get out of it, to get out of Munster. And I can't see them getting out of, Munster.
Mark Fitzgerald coming through. The under-20s did very well against Tipperary on Friday night last, despite not having any of those three players. Like there's hurlers there.
Well, as someone said to me, I thought it was quite disingenuous what Davey said after one of the league games about really picking up Waterford players that were on the floor or whatever. And someone made the comparison to me. He's like, he wasn't picking up the Rentford rejects. Like he was picking up a squad that had serious talent. And yeah, they need to get points on the board. They need to turn things around. Even a win, one win. They need to break this cycle within the Munster round robin. Whatever it is, it just does not work for them. And they're chasing their tail a bit now to get back because for all intents and purposes, it looks like they're out of Munster already. Barring they get a couple of big wins and can get 4 points on the board and somehow get positive scored in.
I'm going to have to get some sort of a little bell or klaxon that goes off every time you say the word